I'm your host, Kinetic, and you're watching GameOnEnd. Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at rare scanner add-ons. We'll be using the add-on control panel to enable and disable as we go. So let's take a look at the first add-on. Okay, we're going to start with HandyNotes. Now, HandyNotes is a modular add-on. It works on both your map and your minimap. There's a lot of modules for this add-on, but right now we're just going to take a look at the rare tracker for Warlords of Draenor. We have two installed here, so we can actually do a comparison of how modules can differ. The first one just tracks treasures in this zone, and the second one tracks rares and treasures. We'll take a look at both here, just so you can see the difference of how these modules can vary by author. Okay, so the first one here is just for tracking treasures in Draenor. As we can see here, it's added an icon at the location of treasures on the map. They'll also be visible on the minimap. Even modules that are designed to track the same things can be different in what they display and how they display it. It all just comes down to how the author has intended it to be used or to be viewed. This one obviously is not showing any rares, it's just treasures. So now let's jump over and take a look at the other module. Okay, so now we can see icons on the map and the minimap for rares and the treasures that we could see before. But as you can see, the treasures look a little bit different. So let's fly around and take a look. Okay, we've got our first treasure here, and as we loot it, we'll take a look at the map here, and the icon will be removed. The module automatically detects that we've looted the treasure and removes it from the map, since we can only loot it once. If a treasure or a rare is part of a daily or a weekly reset, the module will know that and will repopulate it once we can loot it again. Okay, now let's fly around and find some rares. The thing to know about HandyNotes is that it's just an add-on for the map and minimap. You're not going to get any audio or visual cues of when you've spotted a rare. You're just going to get the in-game default star on your minimap when a rare is in range. So you'll have to keep an eye out for that. In the case of some rares, like on the war fronts or things like that, the rares actually respawn really quickly, so you can just head to the location based on the icon, and if it's not there, wait a few minutes for it to respawn. But if you're camping for a long-term rare, this isn't going to give you any indication when that rare has actually spawned or when it's up. You'll just have to keep an eye out for it. But at least the add-on will show you the location of the rare. Okay, so we have found a rare that's up here, and as we look on the map here, we can see that the icon is blue. That means that we're able to get loot from it today. Now, there was no indicator or anything that it was up. We just saw the star on the minimap, so. Okay, so we kill it, and the icon clears there from the map, and of course that will re-pop up after a day because we're eligible to get loot from it again. Now, one cool thing is that a few of these add-ons actually have the options built in to stop tracking once you've got all of the rewards from that rare. So say if it's something that drops a toy, but it doesn't drop it every time, you can kill it and then it will repop up again the next time. But once you've looted the main item from that mob and you've learned it, the add-on will actually even stop notifying you when you're in range of that rare because there's no loot that you need from it, which is pretty cool. Okay, so let's take a look at the options for this module here. We can see that we've got a lot of choices here on disabling the tracking of rares based on zone. We can turn off the tracking of treasures based on zone or all kinds of things here. Can really dial it in to just display the stuff that you want to see. Okay, and here's the options on this one to continue showing rares even after you've gotten the, achievement or loot from them or whatever. So pretty straightforward. Just install the modules for the zones that you would like to see information on, and for the zones that you don't care about, just leave them out. The downside is that, there's not a lot of consistency because these are a lot of times created by different authors, so they may have a little bit different options available or different looks to them, but good overall. Okay, let's take a look at the next add-on, NPCScan. Okay, let's take a look at the settings. This first tab has the options for which rares you would like to track or not. It's all broken up here by zones and types. You can disable in specific dungeons or all of them. You can also track rare hunter pets. Okay, the options for detection are here. We can tell it which methods we want it to ignore and how frequently we want it to scan. We can also have it ignore if it sees a mob but it's dead. We also have options here to stop scanning in certain zones. This tab is the options for the pop-up, so we can do how long it's visible for. We can change the scale of it and then the position, and you can show the anchor here and move it around wherever you want and then hide it again. This tab is the options for the alerts, so we can do the text alerts here. We can have it show up in a lot of different places like raid warning or in chat, or we can just turn that off. Here's the option to have it flash the edge of the screen, and you can customize like the color and the texture of that. And this is the options for the sound alerts. Now, a couple of really cool features here. You can of course just disable the sound alerts altogether, but you also have this option for it to ignore when you have the game sound muted. So if you are tabbed out and you're just sitting at a rare or something and you don't really want to hear like the game sounds per se, you can mute the game sounds but still get the alert for when a rare pops up. And then you have the options for what sounds it makes when that rare pops up. And this is a unique thing here, is that you can do multiple sounds. So you just keep selecting here the sound that you want and it'll add it to this list. And then of course you can uncheck the ones that you want to remove. If you decide you want to simplify it, you can uncheck some and it'll drop it back down. You can also choose the channel that the volume is following. So if it's just your master volume on the game sound, or you can set it to, the ambience channel or whatever, dialogue. So you can actually control the volume of the alert itself. So this add-on doesn't do anything for the map or minimap. This is just audio or visual alerts based on whatever settings you enable, but it won't show you the location of rares. You just have to come across them as you're flying around. Okay, so we've got our first rare spotted here. Again, no indicators, but you can click on this to target the mob if you're in range of targeting. You'll have to rely on the star on the minimap to find its location. If you hover over the pop-up here, you can see there's a few options. Left-clicking will target the mob. A right-click will remove the pop-up. Now this add-on shows that this rare is a part of an achievement. We can see there that the text is green. That means we've already completed that. If it's red, we still need to kill this mob for an achievement or as a part of an achievement. Now if you actually target the mob, you can left click on the pop-up until you're in range. If it's dead, it will X out like this. Now if we hover over the small X, of course left click will close the pop-up, but a right click will ignore this mob for future scans. One nice thing I like about this add-on is that it's one of the only ones that will show you multiple pop-ups. So if you're in a zone like this where there are a lot of rares around, or like in the Warfronts, where there might be multiple rares within range of each other, one tough thing is that if you are looking for a specific rare and the pop-up comes up, sometimes before you can even click it to try and target the pop-up, you come in range of another rare and your pop-up for the first rare goes away. So you can no longer click it to target that rare because a new rare's pop-up is there now. But this add-on will actually just keep showing more pop-ups, so you could potentially have 3 of them visible if you had that many rares in range, which would easily let you see which rares are up around you and target any of them just by clicking their pop-up. Okay, let's take a look at the next add-on, Rareified. As we will see here, there are no options for this add-on. It's super simple. All it does is gives you an audio alert when you've come in range of a rare, and then in the raid warning or whatever area there in the middle of your screen will pop up the name of the rare and what time you encountered it at. So you'll still need to look at the minimap to find the star, and then manually target them when you can see them. So really simple, but again, if you are just camping for a specific spot where something spawns that, drops a mount or a toy or something, and you just want a way to be tabbed out of the game and get notified when that rare pops up, this can be a great option. Okay, so let's take a look at the next add-on, Rare Scanner. Let's take a look at the options here first. So this one is more full-featured. You have, all the typical options here for if you want it to scan for rares and treasures. But a cool thing is that this one also can let you know when you're in range of event things or treasures or garrison resources or caches or whatever, like all kinds of extra stuff. And of course you can disable whatever you don't want to see, but kind of a cool option. Some of these things aren't even targetable, but at least you'll know that there's some kind of treasure in range. You can of course disable scanning when you're in instances, and you can also disable it when you're on a transport. So if you're, flying over a zone and just don't want to hear the alerts. Okay, and then here are the options for the sound alert. You can of course disable it if you need to, and then you can choose the sound it makes here. You can do 2 separate sounds here, one for rares and one for treasures. Of course you can make them both the same sound. And then you have a volume here for the alert. And these are the options for the pop-up. A couple of cool things here. We have the typical, frame, which will let us click and target the mob. But we also have an option here for a 3D model, and then the timer for how long until that pop-up will fade out. And then some options here to show the text warnings in either the raid warning or in chat. You also have a checkbox here to hide the pop-up for treasures, so you'll still get the sound alert if you have that turned on, but since you can't target treasures, you may not want to see the pop-up for it. Okay, and then we have the options to disable for specific rares, if there's something you don't want tracked. And then we have zone filters. You can just stop the tracking completely in certain zones. And here are the options for showing the loot table. So this is actually a super cool feature, which I love, which is that right on the pop-up, you can have it display what that rare drops. You have a bunch of filters here, so you can filter things out. But firstly, you have the options to show the loot bar. Then you can show how it displays, where it's attached to the frame, how many items you want to show. And here are the filtering options. So you can go through by categories and just turn them off completely. So like if you don't care to see consumables that drop or trade materials, you can disable those. If you just want to turn off things individually, you can also just check those boxes one at a time. And then we'll see later on the pop-up, you also have the option to click on an item to remove that category. So if you're not sure what something is categorized as, you'll just see it the first time on the loot table for the rare. And if you click into that item, it'll give you the option to just hide that category. You also have some generic options here to just filter out items that you can't use, and also just to only show items that are transmoggable. So if you're just farming for that kind of stuff off of rares, that's a nice option as well. Okay, and then here we have the options for the map and mini-map. You can toggle rares or treasures on either of those. And then you also have some other options here for whether you want to show icons for things after you've killed them. And you can also continue showing treasure locations even after you've looted them. And lastly, you have the options for how long the pop-up will stay visible before it fades out. Okay, so let's take a look at the map here. Now, we've already encountered most of the rares in this zone, so it's filled them in. When you first start out, it will probably be empty. But as you encounter rares, it will save their location on the map and then will show you whether you've looted them for the day or not, or the week, or whatever the reset is. And then if you hover over the icon there, you can again see the loot table for that mob. Okay, so we've got our first rare here, and as you can see, we have all the options turned on right now. So we can see the 3D model and the target frame, and then the loot table. Of course, all that's customizable. But just really neat, like you can have, any of the things that you want to see about that mob right there on a pop-up. So you don't have to go searching for anything or wondering what does this mob look like or whatever. It's all right there. Okay, and then once we kill it here, we'll take a look at the map and we can see that the icon has changed colors, letting us know just by a glance that we cannot get loot from that mob again until it resets, or in some cases where you only get it once or whatever. But just a nice, quick, and easy way to check out a zone and see what you're missing so far and see what you can still loot for the day. If you hover over the icon here, you also see at the top you have a timer since the last time you've seen the mob. So if you're camping something that continually drops like BOEs or rep tokens or something like that, you can quickly check back in and you don't really have to keep a log of like, okay, I saw it, 3 hours ago, so maybe it's going to spawn in an hour or whatever. You can see exactly how long it's been since you saw that mob and can know, when to check back. So especially if you know the intervals that it spawns at, if it's a 4-hour mob or a 6-hour, 8-hour, whatever, you know exactly when it should spawn again. So really nice features. Okay, let's take a look at our next add-on, SilverDragon. Alright, let's take a look at the options. So to start with, we have the basic options here of whether we want it to scan while we're in instances or while we're on taxis. We have how frequently we want it to scan. Okay, we've got one here, so let's go kill this and then we'll come back to the menu. Okay, so back where we were, the next one here we have an option to make a macro that will target and fill in the name of the rare that's up in the window, so you don't have to click on the window. Okay, here's the options for how it will find rares, so you can disable whichever one of these you don't want it to do. By default, you can do mouse over and targeting and just nameplates. Okay, and then these options here for the vignettes just lets you target things from further out, which is part of how this add-on can grab things so quickly and from so far away. Okay, and then we have some more advanced options here if you want to disable specific mobs or if you want to disable in certain zones. Okay, and then we have the notification settings. Okay, including the options to notify us even if it's dead, mobs that we've found before, to scan in instances, and the screen edge flash. And the next one here is for sound notifications, so we can completely disable it. Then we have this sound of drums that kind of plays a secondary sound under the main sound that you choose. And then you have syncing options for whether it will let you know if a group member has found a rare, which is nice if you're camping something that spawns in a couple of spots and you have a couple of people sitting at each spawn location. And then you also have guild syncing, and then the choice for which sounds you want. And you can choose different sounds here and how many times that sound repeats. You can choose different based on just normal rares, rares that drop mounts, and then boss rares. Okay, here we have the options for where it'll display a message. So you can have it go in chat or in the raid warning, or turn that off if you don't want it. Okay, and then we have the options to mark the mob as soon as it sees it, so you can choose an icon here. And then again, just disabling the vignette part of the searching. This just lets it find mobs from much further away. And lastly here we have the options for the pop-up. You can have it hide after a certain amount of time. You can disable it completely. You can lock it or let it be draggable. And then you have the different sources that it will find the rares from, including like syncing across guildmates who are running the add-on, nameplates, mouse over, all that stuff. And then also you have some style options here. I kind of like this one here. It blends in pretty well with the default UI. Okay, next we have the options for the minimap icon. Okay, and then we have some syncing options here. You can disable the option to send your information to other players. You can sync just across party or raid or guild. And then you also have this nearby option, but just note here that it can't tell distance on guild members, so it will basically, any guild member that's running the add-on, it'll give you the warning. So I usually turn that one off. Okay, we can have it show the tooltip for achievement status. So if you want to see if a mob is related to an achievement. Then you have some integration here with HandyNotes, which is nice. And then some customization for what mobs show up, and the icon scale and alpha. And then if you need to, a full reset. Okay, now that we've had a chance to see them all running individually and see, what things they show and don't show and whatever, let's go ahead and enable all of them and just do some flying around and see how quickly and accurately these different add-ons show rares and treasures if they do that as well. Okay, so we see a couple of these pop up as soon as we're in range. The last one didn't show until we targeted. and we see one of them cleared as soon as we killed the mob. And the other two are just following the timer that was set for how long to display the pop-up. Okay, these two popped up as soon as we moused over, but it's dead. Okay, so you can see here we've got the multiple pop-ups. So that's one of the features I was saying is nice about NPCScan, is that you can see multiple rares at the same time. But we can see here the achievement status. I believe that SilverDragon on the bottom there is showing it as red. It's probably referencing the character-specific achievement, whereas NPCScan is just showing that on the account we've completed the achievement. So we see there that Rare Scanner took a while to catch this Bleeding Hollow horror. Okay, so again, Rare Scanner a little bit later than the others, but the features of being able to see the loot is really nice. Okay, so we're just going to continue flying around here for a little bit and just keep seeing how these respond. Overall, just checking these out, it seems like NPCScan and SilverDragon catch stuff most frequently from the furthest away. All three have got some really neat features that the other ones don't have. I think you'd be happy with any of them, just kind of depending on which features are more important to you. And of course, you can run more than one of these if you really want. I think for simplicity, just the sound notifications might be all some people need, but wanting to see loot tables for the heavy loot farmers, transmog and rares and toys and mounts and stuff. It is really nice to be able to see quickly if mobs such as like the Pandaria rares that drop transmog and stuff like that, it's nice to see if you've collected it from that character. You may be on a character that can't equip the thing. So even if you see that rare, maybe you just decide to leave it there for somebody else because you don't need anything that it drops or you can't use what it drops. So in the end, I think there's something here for everybody. You just need to assess, which features you would like. If that is from some combination of, of a couple of them, you can always disable the plates on one and just have the audio alerts from another, or whatever kind of things, you want to come up with. But play around with these and see which one works for you, and let me know in the comments which one was your favorite. So again, we're going to fly around for another minute here and just see how they react. If you made it this far, I really want to say thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. That will do it for this episode. If you've enjoyed this, remember, pressing the like button is absolutely free. Subscribe and stay tuned for more Game on End.